you need to appeal to the electronic eyes first. And that's only done through being the job description and having as many instances of keywords as you can. Another question. If you receive endorsements, accolades from bosses, managers, how do you use them in the resume? How do these go in the cover letter or on resumes or elsewhere? One way to do it, and I do this myself actually, right in my summary, right in my highlight of qualifications, I have received outstanding accolades from senior management for outstanding job performance. I actually have that right in my profile section because, when you get something like that, and bosses don't give them out on a regular basis. They don't. And when you receive something like that and you've worked hard for that and it's recognized, you should get credit for it in your resume. Do you need it in the cover letter? I don't really think so. I think it's better for the resume, and only for the reason that your resume will always keep traveling. Okay, it'll keep traveling through databases and landing on people's desks and all of that. Your cover letter is sometimes even separated from that process, and many times you don't even need a cover letter when you're working with recruiters. But it is your resume that is the most important document. Another question, should bullet points be in note point form or as complete sentences if trying to show outcome-based statements? This is an interesting question because I've definitely seen both. I am more inclined for a note point form, I suppose, over complete sentences, just I guess for sake of space. But I can't say I've ever really come across a rule one way or the other. As technical writers, you may be expected to speak in complete sentences, write in complete sentences. Another question, should education details be part of the resume only if it is related to the job we apply, or should we give our education details anyway? When it comes to education, the more you have, the better. I'm not sure there would be an instance where I would ever delete education. I hope that answers your question. Another question, how do you write a good tech writing resume when you're just starting off as technical writing new grads? This is a great question. And I really like this question because it's a hard thing to do in the sense that you might be stumped when you think, well, I am a new grad, and you're facing all of these stereotypes. I'm a new technical writing grad. I need experience. I don't have experience. But you spent your time doing something, okay? All of you did. And if you spent your time hopefully helping other people, if you've spent your time mentoring, tutoring your friends, tutoring at the center at the school, if you've spent your time cutting the lawn of the old lady next door, if you've spent your time down at the community center helping people do something, I mean, that's all experience. One person, he was very involved in sports, and he was a coach. So all of that experience, what you need to do is take your experience and make it tech writing relevant. So, for example, how would coaching a sports team, how would that be tech writing relevant? Well, there's communication skills, there's teaching skills, there's mentoring, there's maybe you had to write documents that are associated with coaching or the plays or whatever. Maybe you had to organize and create schedules and send out emails. I mean, you try and tie your experience into something that is technical writing relevant. And of course, in order to do that, you need to know what a technical writer is. You need to know what the skills that are valued as a technical writer. So one of the people I worked with was a hospital orderly. And you might think, well, how would that ever be related to technical writing? But in fact, what he did is he escorted people from their procedure to other procedures. So he was very well versed in the procedure. He knew what the machines were. He knew what the medical terminology was. He was able to keep people calm and talk to them as they were going from procedure to procedure. So he was able to get a lot of communication skills, which is very important as a technical writer. He was able to have a good grasp of technical and medical knowledge, which is important as a technical writer. So those kinds of things, you need to, first of all, categorize and make a catalog of the experience that you have, where you've spent your time. And even if it's developing, hobby software or whatever it is, and then think about what's relevant in technical writing. And next question. Should education-based projects be listed as work experience or labeled as experiential learning? What you could do is change the heading of that section so it's not work experience, it's experience. You could do that and then include education-based projects. And for education-based projects, the client or the employer would be your school, and then you're able to list that. And I think that that's a fair way to do it. You may want to clarify within that experience that it was for the program, it was for the certificate, so that everything is above board and clear and understandable to somebody else. And I absolutely think that you should get credit for all the hard work that you do in school, because school, and especially technical writing schools, they are teaching the best, the most current methodologies, and you should absolutely get credit for everything that you do. Okay, so we have a few more questions that I'd like to go through, and then we can go into some other documents, which I think, as I mentioned before, I think are going to be really the most educational part of the evening, and really taking the theory from the presentation and translating it into some real-life practical tips that you can use on your own resume. And before I answer the next question, I am going to take another sip of water. Okay. Question. If your job involved technical writing, but your official title was something else, do you recommend labeling such positions as tech writing or leaving the official company job title? This is a great question. You have to recognize a couple of things. You have to recognize that if you have an obscure job title, or you have a job title that doesn't reflect your experience, and you use that job title, then you are not reaching your audience. This is all about reaching your audience. Now, some people might feel uncomfortable using a fake job title. That's how they might see it. I don't happen to see it that way, but for the people that feel uncomfortable doing that, then you could always say technical writer and then slash and then use the official job title. You could do it that way. But I think that you're doing your users and your readers a disservice when you're using a job title that they're not familiar with or doesn't reflect your true skills of what you did in the job. And there are so many, I can't tell you how many job titles I've seen that mean technical writer. And I'm sure that you've come across these job titles also. And when it comes to search engines and when it comes to, if I apply for a job and I look at the job description and it says the job is technical writer, or if it says the job is information developer, well then guess what I'm doing on my resume? They mean the same thing, but one is going to be ranked a little bit differently depending on the way that they filter the resumes. They can filter on synonyms also, but you know, always do the service for your reader all the time. So the next question, instead of putting all your jobs in chronological order, can we put the jobs that are relevant to the position we are applying for in one section, even if you, were not there back to back? Okay, so one of the things that HR looks for is, will they prefer to have a resume in reverse chronological format? And that's so that they can easily spot gaps. And when you change that format into another one, then you're making it a little bit harder for them to do that. And you know, if you make things harder to do, if you make things harder on they just won't read your resume. There's 1,000 other resumes to look at, and so always try and do things in a way that they're used to seeing it. What you can do, because I understand what the point of this question is, and it's a good idea to kind of collect information and put jobs that are relevant to the position together so people can see it better, and I can see the intent of the usability. One other way to consider doing this is by mentioning these jobs or mentioning this fact in the summary section or the highlights section. And if you write it in such a way that piques their interest, well then they would flip to those job descriptions themselves. So that's one other way to do it. So it's all about thinking about all of your audiences. It's a lot of work. A resume is definitely a lot of work. So another question, what if you have worked with many companies, say about 10, including your contract and permanent positions in 12 years, will you be highlighting each one of them in your resume? Great question. Over 12 years, I would say over 10 years, unless one extends past 10, you would try to, I would say that, you would try to include all of this experience. But if some of the experience is not relevant, or it's dated, or it's obsolete, then you need to think critically about whether you actually need it, especially if you are working on contract, you're working multiple jobs at the same time. If you delete that job